Today we're going to look at the immediate workflow for digital dentures. In the administration phase of the InLab Software 20, you will still fill in the details just as if you're doing a regular denture. So in this case, we've chosen individual teeth and we've highlighted our upper and lower arch. So when it comes to designing an immediate denture, the workflow is still very similar to designing a denture as you normally would. So you would set up your administration screen the exact same way. So when it comes to the scan phase, often when it comes to the bite registration, you can choose to either do a bite reg or you can choose to do the occlusion scan, just depending on how many teeth are of course involved in your original scan. But here we've got our upper jaw, lower jaw, and a bite rim. So that's what we have for this particular demonstration. So when we move forward into the model step, when we get into the model phase step 1, that is when we're actually going to take care of the kind of first step within an immediate case, which is taking care of the virtual extractions. So there's a couple ways people will do this. Is sometimes in certain cases, if you know that your surgeon is going to be doing something like a bone reduction, you can use the cut tool. So I've just angled the model a little bit here so that you're able to, of course, just get better access to not cut away too much detail. So once I have this kind of hole set up here, I can then turn on my replace tool and I'm going to essentially fill in that detail with virtual stone. So that's kind of how one way you can go about doing your immediate cases when you're looking at kind of a virtual extraction is you're able to essentially plug in with virtual stone using the replace tool. So once we have the replace tool highlighted, with your left cursor you'll double click where you want to start and then it's single clicked with your left cursor to basically tag down that line to be able to kind of curve it and wrap around the actual hole that's in question. So when it comes to the replace tool, it functions the best when it's on a smooth line. So if you find that your lines are a little bit jagged or anything like that, so here you see myself, I'm actually fixing these areas where my cursor might have fallen off just a little bit. So in this case, what you're able to do is you're able to then use the replace tool to fill in those details. Once those details are filled in, then you can do the same to the opposing if needed with the extraction tool. So here we've got our lower jaw now where the teeth have now been removed. So sometimes at this point, if people wanted to use the form tool to maybe create almost like little sockets and things like that, you're definitely able to. So you're more than welcome to, of course, kind of plug that in. But then here for the upper jaw, same idea. I first use the cut tool where I'm going to essentially kind of angle my arch a certain way to be able to just quickly cut away the teeth. Sometimes people find that it's a little bit challenging to use the cut tool in this instance. So if you wanted to just rely on the replace tool to just wrap around, a couple teeth at a time, you absolutely can do so as well too. It is up to operator preference. But if you do find that you can't really get a good angle to cut away part of the model without cutting away too much, then you can of course rely on just the replace tool to go around the teeth. And then like I said, sometimes people will utilize the form tool to basically be able to adapt it to, kind of mimic an extraction site, if you will. So here we are, again, double click to start with your left cursor. Single clicks will tag down with your left cursor, which also allows you to kind of curve and wrap around any areas. And then at the same time, if I hold my left cursor, I can rotate my model to get better access to other surface areas of the model. So then we hit apply and we're able to fill in those details. All right, so once the details are filled in, again, if you needed to, kind of create that extraction site a little bit more, you can use the form tool. Sometimes people like to kind of smooth out or remove some areas on that stone model as well. Again, up to, operator discretion, just based on, kind of how that the extractions are going to proceed in terms of working with the surgeon. Now, once you have that, sometimes people will actually do this step that's called set model axis first. If you want to utilize kind of where the teeth are lined up in the original model for things like the midline and occlusal plane, sometimes people will first set up set model axis as step one, and then they'll go back in with the extraction tool with the replace option to then fill in the details. That is up to operator preference. So if you feel that you can use things like the frenum or natural landmarks on the model or anything like that to roughly estimate where the midline is, then of course you can do utilize it that way. But of course, if you wanted to, step one, proceed with the virtual extractions, more than willing to, or you can choose to first come to this step, set model axis step, set up your midline where your teeth existingly are, and then you can go back into the edit model step to virtually extract. So at this point, we're still setting up things like the occlusal plane, the midline, that all stays the same. So in this next step, kind of preceding the virtual extractions, now the steps are all exactly the same as the traditional denture workflow. So we're in the model-based step where we're able to basically edit the borders. You'll see here that the borders try to kind of follow along the bite rim. So this is where you can, of course, just kind of, delete that out and either start again, or you can choose to just kind of make edits to the software's proposal. But essentially this the software did try to follow the bite rim from our bite block for the immediate case. So once you finish your denture baseline, you're able to proceed to the next step. So there's two ways to basically edit the baseline of the denture. You can choose edit line, which is what I'm using right now here in this demonstration, where you're double clicking on the existing line, single clicking with your left cursor, and you're basically able to kind of double click to finish once you reach another starting point of the existing line. So that's one way to do it. The other option just above edit line is actually the drag line option. With the drag line option, you're able to, exactly as the name would suggest, take pieces of the actual border itself and drag it out or in accordingly. Now with the drag line, if you're actually hovering over the line itself, using your right cursor, you can hold your right cursor and move your mouse up and down to be able to control exactly how much surface area you are dragging out or in. So you do have that flexibility with the drag line option to specifically identify what surface area you want to cover. So now we're here doing the same thing with the upper. We're just making adjustments to what the software has proposed. Again, the software was trying to follow the bite rim in this case, which is why it kind of missed the anterior portion, because that's of course where our teeth had been existing already. So we're just making small edits to that at this point in time. All right, so once you have your border set, you're able to proceed to the Insertion Axis option. With the Insertion Axis option, of course, you're able to control the undercuts. Now here what we've done is we're going to actually open up the bite. So in the denture baseline step, we're actually going to open up the vertical dimensions 2 millimeters. So you can do so with the virtual articulator when you're able to, of course, increase that incisal pin. So you're definitely able to proceed that way as well. All right, now with the insertion axis option, of course, this is where we're trying to control the undercuts. Now for an immediate case, if you did want to virtually block out, you do have the option in the upper right-hand corner under the tools to be able to block out those materials. The system does not automatically block out for you. It does want you to determine if you feel those are necessary. So where an immediate is concerned, if you did feel that you needed to control those undercuts a little bit better with block out, you can of course proceed so with the block out tool. So you'll control the undercuts as well for the opposing arch. And again here, if you did determine that you needed to block out these type of undercuts, you have the ability, and you can also set the max wax thickness for the block out on the lower portion of those parameters. So you do have full control to be able to add or remove any block out material. So again, it doesn't automatically do it for you, but should you want to, that is how you would proceed with it. So in this case, I deleted it, and I'm just going to proceed forward for the model analysis points. So with the model analysis points, I really do like having the help tool turned on. When you have the help tool turned on, not only does it give you a full description, it also gives you a diagram and a name of where it kind of wants you to line up these points on the ridge. So these will help just kind of determine where some of our teeth are going to go. So we do the same for the upper and the lower. All right, now when we proceed forward with the case into the design step, exactly same rules apply for when you're doing a traditional denture. First step is always going to be your parameters. So you're able to set parameters specific to your preference or material, whatever kind of manufacturer's recommendations are set for the materials. So you'll do that as step one in parameters. So in adjust morphology, that is where you're able to adjust, of course, the the look of the teeth. But we're going to come here into the positioning step now, where we're actually going to physically move our teeth to create our denture. So at this point in time, I'm able to, highlight all my teeth. So a couple tricks on the right-hand side of the screen. If you select Harmonic Setting, what it kind of does is it kind of closes any gaps that might be present in between any of the teeth. And it kind of, fits along the ridge a little bit better there. So when I highlight all the teeth, I always want to make sure on the right-hand side, I check off the linear option, which makes sure that it groups all the teeth together so that I can really easily move all my teeth forward at the same time. If I don't have linear checked off, whatever tooth I am hovering over with the tool itself for move and rotate, even if I do have all of my teeth highlighted, it'll pull that tooth just a little bit further out than the others. So you always want linear checked off so that it groups them all together so that you can move them harmoniously. So you do have the ability to highlight all of them on the right-hand side by just holding your shift key down, and you can choose to select your lower, upper, left, and right posteriors as well too, all at the same time. Now in the edit element step is going to be where we make any adjustments to the teeth specifically. So if we wanted to add any, definition to them, make them a little bit smaller, longer, that sort of thing, that's where we can do it in Edit Element. But in the positioning stage, you can always turn on any of your objects on the right-hand side, which is under a tab called Display Objects. Anytime you see the word Objects in InLab, it's referring to one of your scans that you've brought in. So if you had looked at your, bite rim and maybe you had scored it with the occlusal plane or anything like that, that's where you'd be able to actually physically see kind of where it's lining up right now. So you can always use that as kind of a reference point for when you're designing, which is always a nice tool. So in the Edit Element step, again, this is where you are able to add any definition that you might want for the teeth themselves. So you're just focusing on the teeth. You can continue to kind of ignore the root portion of the tooth. That won't actually be there during the actual final design of the denture itself. It just proceeds to kind of have that root while you're proposing the look of the teeth right now, but those will disappear once we get to the finalized step. So once you're happy with the look of the teeth, you're able to hit Edit Denture Base. Now, one thing to note, if you do select Edit Denture Base after you've moved the teeth again, I always recommend just highlighting your denture base and then hitting Recalculate and Apply. So it applies a new denture base to where you've positioned the teeth again. So let's say you go into the Edit Denture Base step, realize that you want to move your teeth a little bit. You go back into positioning. When you do jump back into the Edit Denture Baseline step, you will want to make sure that you do have the arch that you have moved teeth on, whether it's both or just one of them, selected to then put Recalculate and Apply in action, as it will need to give you a new proposal based on where your teeth are newly positioned. So that's an important thing to remember. Otherwise, you will notice that the teeth are kind of off center from where the denture base actually lines up. So that's usually the indication as to why that happens. So once it is recalculated, you are able to then proceed with, of course, just editing your denture base. So with the form tool, you can add, smooth, or remove material to your denture base. So this is much like when you're using a wax carver at the bench with, a Bunsen burner and analog methods. So now you're able to, of course, proceed the exact same way, but digitally in a much cleaner format. So if you did want to utilize that tool, that's definitely handy, the form tool, to be able to, of course, bulk out anything or obviously add in any extra characterization, whether it be festooning or stippling. The shape tool comes in handy to be able to move your tissue in 4 directions or 2 directional. With the individual tool, where you're able to, of course, pull out or in the material of the actual denture base as needed. So with the different form, right now I've got the form tool turned on and I'm able to kind of add material. So let's say I wanted to smooth out. Now I've got smooth turned on. I'm able to just smooth out anything on the denture base itself. So any of the aesthetics that I need put into it, any of the functionality that I need put into it, this is where I can essentially place all of those details into my design. So in the Edit Denture Base step, you're looking at not only kind of the functionality, any of those blue areas is minimal thickness. Often you will find minimal thickness in the socket area, as that is usually the thinner portion of a digital denture, whether you are printing or milling. So don't be too alarmed by that. You do still have material there. It's just that's where it is a little bit below whichever your minimal thickness is set to in parameters. So let's say right now our minimal thickness is set to 2.5 millimeters for the lower or 3.5 millimeters for the lower. Essentially that blue is showing that area is just ever so slightly a little bit thinner. So you can turn on the cursor details, which will then show up in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So it'll always tell you kind of the thickness as you're hovering over with your cursor anyway. So if you were concerned about any of the areas that are showing blue, you can hover over with your cursor and it will kind of fill in details for you about how thick that actually is in that portion. So you can see if you're a little bit more comfortable with the details that are essentially not there. With the individual tooth method, you do have the ability to connect the teeth together. So if you did want to have connectors between the teeth to, bridge or splint the teeth together, you do have full control over that in the administration. But when you do continue with this, if you ever get this warning message, it's just basically saying that it's not sure about the insertion depth based on where the connectors are positioned. So if you need to move your connectors, bulk them out, make them smaller, anything like that, you can. But if you do proceed forward to the finalized step, essentially that is where this software is going to generate the sockets for the teeth. So you will notice in the sockets of the teeth, if you have splinted all the teeth together like a bridge, you will basically see that there is a space between all the teeth for those connectors to sit. So that's one thing to kind of notice, that's different in the finalized phase. If you ever do get an error message here in terms of a lower jaw or upper jaw not being able to be produced, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, it has to do with minimal thickness. So you'll have to basically pay attention to, are the teeth sitting directly on the actual model itself, in which case that would be protruding right through the denture base. So that is definitely a possibility with some immediate cases, and that is where we kind of see digital, sometimes having its shortcomings when it comes to dentures, is usually where minimal thickness is concerned. But once you have your two designs completed, you'll have your tooth files for your upper and lower jaw, and then your denture bases as well. So one thing when you've got all the teeth splinted together that you'll notice is in the sockets, there is space, of course, for those connectors to actually pop into place when you kind of connect the two like puzzle pieces. So this has been the workflow for the immediate dentures in InLab Software 20. Again, with the InLab workflow for immediates, you're really just utilizing the replace tool to virtually extract teeth. Otherwise, you're still proceeding with the traditional digital denture workflow. So you can be sure to check out that demonstration as well on this YouTube channel to be able to see exactly where you are able to utilize the digital denture workflow as well too. Thanks so much for joining. You have the ability in this stage to export as an STL or directly to the InLab cam should you be milling. Thanks so much and stay well.